For cheese lovers, there's nothing quite like the seductive stink and wonderful savoury flavour of washed-rind cheeses. And one of the most famous comes from right here in the Vosges Mountains of northeastern France. It dates back to the 6th century and takes its name from the Latin for monastery. It is, of course, Munster. One of the interesting paradoxes of Munster is despite its strong smell, the interior has a smooth melting texture and delicious creamy flavour that some people claim is like eating a gooey piece of heaven. The birthplace of this benchmark cheese is Alsace, which lies in the Vosges Mountains bordering France and Germany. It was here in the 6th century that Benedictine monks from Ireland first introduced cheese-making techniques. Over the following centuries, the surrounding damp pine-forested slopes were slowly cleared, and the monks' methods were adopted by local farmers living high in the mountain pastures, which are known as the Chaume. The craft of making this most delicious washed-rind cheese almost disappeared during the last century, and it only survives today, largely thanks to the commitment of a few small family farms and dairies.
My grandfather made Munster cheese, my father made Munster cheese, and now we have 20 farmers who make for us Munster cheese with raw milk.
And all the cheese is matured here?
Yes, it's important because in one side we have a river and the other side we have grass. And in the top we have also grass and vegetable.
The Haxaire family run the only non-farm-based dairy in Alsace and also buy young 3 to 4 day old cheeses from 20 of the 100 farms left in the region. Known locally as Munster's Joan of Arc, Virginie Haxaire explained to me why the family's warren of underground cellars was so special.
We have high humidity and 12 grade of temperature.
Wow, look at these. They're fantastic.
Yeah.
These are Vosgiennes. Did you say Vosgiennes?
You say Vosgiennes.
Yeah, they're really friendly. Look at these.
And normally they are used to produce milk and meat. It's, I don't know in English, but it's emblematic cow for Munster.
An emblem of Munster.
And for the area, for the Vosges, for the mountain.
And these cows only go outside in summer?
Yeah, in the middle of the spring and in summer.
And they always sleep here?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what about this lovely stuff they're eating here?
When they eat good grass, they make good milk and good cheese. But what is important, the grass is coming from this area. It's a parc naturel régional.
So it's a national park,
that is to say that the flower and grass is protected.
And it always has to be
very dry.
Dry.
And you see, you have several kind of this sort, this sort, very variety,
and of course,
very green.
And of course, that's very important for the milk, because that's where you get the real character.
It's a good breakfast for the cow.
And lunch.
Also.
And tea.
Yeah. No, but it's very, very important. You are not able to make good milk if they don't feed very, very well.
The production of the finest farmhouse cheeses begins with raw milk collected from a breed of cattle called Vosges, which were originally introduced from Scandinavia in the 17th century. This hardy breed produces a casein-rich milk that is ideal for this type of cheese. Cheese is made twice a day, as the fresh milk must be used within 2 hours of milking. After the addition of starter cultures and animal rennet, curd is set, cut and drained. Most of the whey is then removed to help reduce acid levels. Hey Christian, expliquez-moi la fabrication de fromage.
Alors le fromage, au départ, c'est la traite.
At the beginning, there's the milking. We have to milk the cows. The milk arrives in this bin, still at 34 degrees Celsius. We then add the rennet to coagulate the milk for an hour. Then it will be cut into small cubes, like these. We drain about 15% of the whey. And now we will start to fill the cheese molds, like I'm doing right now. And after half an hour, the cheese will be drained, turned, salted, and finally placed in maturation caves for 3 weeks. That gives us the final product, the real Munster that we know. The most important thing is the milk. It has to be very high quality and used right after the milking. For instance, this cheese is made from this morning's milk. We added the rennet right after the milking, and this is a very important part of making a good Munster. To make a Munster like this one, we only need 4 liters of milk. But with another type of cow, like the Holstein, we would need 5 liters to make the same cheese.
Il faudrait 5 litres de lait pour faire un Munster.
After 4 days, Christian delivers his young Munster cheese to the Haxaire cellars. But before they're accepted, they must first be tested for quality.
Each Tuesday afternoon, we receive all the farmers, and we have about 20 farmers, and we taste all cheeses in order to know if it's good or not.
Samples are selected at random to check salt and moisture levels.
C'est bon, hein? Mais lésine pas sur le sel, hein, pas encore. We look at the cheese, the form, the color, and we taste it in order to know if it's the salt is correct or not.
Maturation in the cellars takes a minimum 21 days, and regular washing with spring water helps to encourage a natural reddish bacteria known as bee linens to migrate from the damp atmosphere and grow on the surface of the rind. One cheese recipe that's famous in Alsace is Munster melted with potatoes, and this simple combination has been perfected by Virginie's mother, Mimi.
In fact, my mother will cook you something, a famous recipe of Alsace called Munster coiffé façon Mimi Haxaire.
Take me through the steps.
After you have an onion, you cut also the onion in small quarters.
Her recipe begins with fried onions and some pre-cooked potatoes.
Yeah. Then you add the potatoes. You wait 10 minutes, they're very brown. And after you take the raw milk Munster. It's very important to have a raw milk Munster.
Of course.
Okay, for the flavor. So you took the Munster and you cut in slice. And you add in the top.
She then adds slices of Munster and allows the combination to melt together and form a golden crust.
And this is a traditional dish of the region?
Yes, it's an easy dish. but for winter time because it's very heavy.
Simply serve on a plate with a glass of the local wine for a true Munster piece. It's really good, and I like the crispy bits. I think it'd be nice in the oven too. It goes well with the wine. The Mimi.
Cheers.
Le chef.
Mimi le chef.
Chin chin. Thank you. The official French appellation name of Munster is Munster Jérôme, a combination of two similar washed rind cheeses once made on either side of the Vosges Mountains. Those made in Alsace were called Munster, whilst the slightly larger Jérôme was made in Lorraine. Their names were combined in 1978 when the new appellation rules specified the region where the cheese must be matured, but unfortunately not where it was actually made. Consequently, many brands of Munster are now produced outside the region. Now, the way I really enjoy this cheese is just as it comes, with a nice glass of Gewürztraminer. You know, one of the really interesting things I've found out is that they serve the cheese here with what they call cumin seed. The seed was originally bought here by Dutch Protestants, and when you look at it, in fact, it's caraway seed. They serve it in the cheese in the Alsace region, but in Paris, they just add a little bit next to the cheese and eat the two together. A great combination of aromatics. These days, storks are famous for nesting on the rooftops of the old churches and buildings in the town of Munster, and you're very unlikely to see a Benedictine monk. But their legacy lives on in the name of the town and, of course, the cheese. This is the Pays d'Auge in the heart of Normandy, a region famous for dairy farming and traditional cheeses. One of the oldest washed rind cheeses from here is called Livarot, and the secret of its unique character and flavour starts with this lovely green grass and, of course, the rich milk of these Normand cows. The Pays d'Auge has a long history of cheese making, and its pretty hedged fields, apple orchards and lush pastures make this region perfect for dairy farming. And surprise, surprise, the damp, cool climate is ideal for ripening washed rind cheeses. The two oldest surviving cheeses made here today are called Livarot and Pont L'eveque, and it's thought that they're related to a monastery cheese known as Angelot, which was made during the 12th century. Livarot is said to be the forebear of Normandy Camembert because of its round shape and small size, and it was once the most popular of all Norman cheeses. In the 1870s, it was made on hundreds of small farms, but by the 1970s, the entire system of farming and affineurs had disappeared, and today there are just 4 producers making the cheese. The largest of these is the family-owned Graindorge dairy, which has played a crucial role in the survival and promotion of Livarot over the past 4 decades. It now produces almost 80% of all cheeses bearing the name.
Mon grand-père a commencé à fabriquer des fromages.
My grandfather was making farmhouse cheeses, and each week he was selling his production to the affineurs at markets in Livarot, Orbec, Lisieux, and Vimoutier. He became an affineur himself and was buying the young cheeses from his fellow farmers, and the cheese sales grew from that. My father took over from him after the war, and the sales developed in Paris. That's how we became artisan cheesemakers.
This impressively modern dairy makes both Livarot and Pont L'eveque, which are both protected under appellation regulations. Until recently, all milk for making Livarot had to be collected from 12 kilometres around the village. But it's become so popular that the area has recently been increased to 60 kilometres. So this line here covers Pont L'eveque and Livarot.
Voilà, tout à fait. Donc une ligne de fabrication de Pont L'eveque et de Livarot. Vous avez pu voir l'addition de la présure dans la bassine, donc une présure d'origine animale. On attend environ 40 minutes afin que le lait coagule. Ensuite, le caillé est tranché avec un outil et justement en fonction de la technologie Livarot ou Pont L'eveque, cet outil va être différent. Ensuite, vous avez les brasses du caillé. Là encore, fonction de la technologie Livarot ou Pont L'eveque, le nombre sera différent.
Starters and rennet are added to the fresh milk before the curd coagulates in giant rows of plastic buckets. After cutting, the curds are placed into round hoops to drain, and a young Livarot is born. Vous êtes appelé le héros de Graindorge. Pourquoi?
Le héros?
Oui.
Oh, je suis
Hero?
le pauvre fromager.
No, I'm only the humble cheesemaker.
L'artisan fromager.
I'm just the artisan cheesemaker who carried on in the footsteps of two previous generations of people who mastered the fabrication and quality of our cheeses. Maybe it won't be the most humble thing to say, but we are so passionate about our products that we want to make them as good as possible. The flavor of the Livarot is strong. The raw milk one? Compared to the industrial version, the cheeses are similar, but different.
The flavour rests a long time in the mouth, yep.
Ouais, il s'éteint très lentement.
It takes a long time.
Long time. Ouais. Much pleasure.
Much pleasure. Merci beaucoup. Another piece of cheese, please.
Ah, du lait cru.
After all that mechanisation, it's amazing to see these cheeses are still wrapped by hand. The traditional version, made from raw milk, is wrapped with these reeds which are collected from the Pays d'Auge region, whereas the pasteurised version has a paper wrap around the outside. Livarot is sometimes called the kernel, because traditionally it was bound by 5 thin bands of reed to hold its shape as it softened during maturation. There is no mistaking this cheese. Apart from its shape and the stripes on the rind, it has a distinct orange rusty colour from the use of a vegetable dye called roucou. Not far from the village of Livarot is a smaller dairy where the Graindorge family make a much more traditional Pont L'eveque from raw milk. The head cheesemaker explained to me the differences between the cheeses made at the automated plant and those made here entirely by hand.
Par rapport à l'industriel, notre fromage est proche mais différent.
The industrial cheese will also be cut and stirred, but here we touch the cheese, we feel the curd and the milk. While the industrial cheese is made by machines rather than people. In this case, we keep a human approach to the product.
Tout à l'heure, nous avons brossé les fromages et c'est pour faire apparaître le brossage dans l'avenir.
Earlier, we brushed the cheeses. This process is to obtain the orange color shades on the sides. This is a natural coloration from the ferment du rouge bacteria that, when developing, by eating the milk, produces a reddish coloration and give the product a perfume, but also a taste. The white mold that you see here is a geotrichum that gives the cheese a nutty flavor, while the ferment du rouge bacteria can give honey and apple flavors. All sorts of flavors that are really nice. And this is not due to the molds or the ferment du rouge bacteria, but from the yeast. As the cheese starts to ripen, the mold starts to grow, giving life to the product. And without life, there's no way we could make a cheese.
This square-shaped cheese always appears to me to be too big for its box and takes its name from a small village in Normandy between Lisieux and Treville. Pont L'eveque is now made by just 8 producers from milk collected from across Normandy. After the cheese has ripened for a minimum of 30 days, the dense, sticky paste beneath the rind slowly develops a creamy texture and wonderful, slightly meaty flavour. This is one of the oldest of all Norman cheeses, and after experiencing its delicious taste, it's easy to see why. Graindorge now makes 60% of all the Pont L'eveque made in France, and 35% of this is made with raw milk. You know, in the cheese world, we've got a lot to thank the monks for. Without them, we wouldn't have washed rind cheeses. Because of their vows, they weren't allowed to eat meat quite a lot of the year, and as a result, they often ate fish. And of course, cheese was a very important source of protein. And the idea of washing the cheese with brine or alcohol was one way of making it seem a bit more interesting. And I don't think it's any mistake that most of those washed rind cheeses actually have the flavour of cured meats to them. You know, that sort of salami flavour. You can always tell when you find a good washed rind cheese, it's got that background flavour of cured meat or ham. One of my favourite French washed rind cheeses takes its name from this pretty village of Epoisse. It nearly became extinct in the 1950s, but what makes it really special is it's washed with a local brew called Marc de Bourgogne. Epoisse is another French washed rind cheese that almost disappeared, and it's largely thanks to the Berthaut family that it's still in production today.
Si on veut parler technique de fabrication, il faut que l'on parle du lait.
If you want to talk about the fabrication technique, we need to start with the milk. Epoisse uses 3 types of cow's milk, the Brune des Alpes, the Montbéliarde, and the French Simmental. We pasteurize the milk and let it rest for 8 hours. And it will start to ferment with the help of some starters. Then we cut the curd, put it in molds, flip it, and salt it. We want to take the moisture from the inside out. So we place the cheese in a dryer that mimics the techniques of the Middle Ages. It may sound odd, drying with moisture, but it's because we want to dry the cheese slowly and, above all, avoiding forming a rind. So we're going very slowly, and after 2 days in this dryer, we will start the process of rubbing the cheese 3 times a week for 5 weeks, and the red-orange color appears naturally. We continue this process until we decide the cheese is ready to be shipped all over the world.
When carefully ripened, Epoisse has a marvellous flavour and delicious creamy texture. France is the home of so many wonderful washed rind cheeses, it's very hard to pick a favourite. One thing I have learnt though is whether it's Livarot, Pont L'eveque, Epoisse or Munster, we should be grateful to the ancient monks and the vision and passion of a small group of modern family cheesemakers.